father-son mechanic duo shares those new cars comes with lengthy warranties, cutting into business for both auto parts stores and mechanics, as customers at times bypass them both. Not to mention smart cars, also reducing the need for traditional auto parts.
If you don't have the volume of the cars breaking down as much, you really don't need that many places to sell you the parts. And there are probably a lot of places out there to sell them.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to talk about what's really happening with layoffs, store closures, and the overall economic climate. Before we dive right in, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. So let's get started. No hesitation today.
Watching your wallet tonight, and a big player in the auto parts game about to close more than 500 stores and, of course, cut jobs along with it.
So we're talking about Advance Auto Parts. Fox 5's Kendall Green takes a look under the hood to find out why and if this could spell bigger trouble for the auto parts industry.
Advance Auto Parts joins the growing list of retailers rolling back, announcing closures of more than 700 stores, including 523 corporate shops, 204 independent locations, and 4 distribution centers.
No, it don't surprise me.
Folks like Terrence, who hasn't been in one for more than 2 years, gets why.
I have an Audi, so I just go to Audi for everything I need.
The dealership.
Yeah, the dealership.
After revealing their last quarter's performance, the major chain's shares dropped 5%. Now the company's CEO shares the cuts are a part of creating value among shareholders. Now, Advance Auto Parts' move to close hundreds of their stores are signs of the times, and mechanics here at United Auto Repairs have seen those times changing and tell us that's no surprise.
I could see them having hard times, especially with the COVID and everything else, and people not using the cars as much.
Let me just pause there. It's really short, a minute and 58 seconds, but thanks to Fox 5 for carrying this particular broadcast, and as you know, this is in the parts field, so it's right up my alley. But corporate statements during times like these are frustrating. They call it streamlining operations or adding value for shareholders, but they're just basically losing money. The truth is much simpler. The economic climate is basically rough right now, and businesses are shutting down due to a combination of bad policy, changing consumer demands, and competition from online giants Amazon, eBay, Rock Auto, Parts Avatar, or even your local Costco. You can go for everyday items like filters and wiper blade rubbers and wiper blade refills and all these other things. So auto parts stores like this one, Advance Auto, they're struggling because cars, especially electric vehicles, EVs, they're built differently now, and EVs don't need oil changes, spark plugs, or many other parts traditional engines require. And with thousands fewer components, the demand for maintenance and repair naturally decreases. So I say that to say this: the more EVs come into the market, the more a lot of these stores, these particular stores, are going to struggle along with the online competition. And I don't think our leaders actually saw this coming, or they saw so far down the road that everything is interconnected. An entire supply chain or mini supply chain that is tied to the automotive sector is going to be dismantled. And they never looked at what might or what could have been. And I quote from the Bible, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." That's Luke 23 verse 23. Luke 23 verse 23, as a matter of fact. Not really a biblical person, but that stuck out in my mind. Let's continue.
Much, and like I said, a lot of people bought new cars.
The father-son mechanic duo shares those new cars comes with lengthy warranties, cutting into business for both auto parts stores and mechanics, as customers at times bypass them both. Not to mention smart cars, also reducing the need for traditional auto parts.
If you don't have the volume of the cars breaking down as much, you really don't need that many places to sell you the parts. And there are probably a lot of places out there to sell them.
So with stores like Pep Boys right next door, should they...
Let me go back a little and freeze it here. The father-son duo who owns this shop, and this is something that I've spoke about in former episodes, meaning that this is how generational wealth is built, when the father can pass the business down to the son, or the father takes the son under the wings and teach them the ways in terms of a skill trade. A career is built, and that is generally done when there is a father around. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist anymore, but it's far reaching because of the statistics out there showing that more and more households are being led by single mothers, and this shift is actually going to destroy or industries are going to struggle because you won't have the young men coming up who are going to take over the realms of society to maintain and build our infrastructure that our forefathers actually handed over to us. So something like this is needed. Skills trade are needed back in the high school level. During my time going to school, we learned woodwork, metalwork, electrical, automotive engineering, technical drawing, amongst other things. And the girls, on the other hand, will also learn home economics. On a number of things. They learn baking, they learn sewing, they learn grooming, they learn housekeeping. But in came a lot of other people who thought that a lot of these things needed to be changed and the way how we grow our kids. And you see the results now. Now we're struggling to get these particular tradesmen back into the realm. If something ain't broke, why try to fix it? But I digress. Let's continue this story.
Son mechanic duo shares those new cars comes with lengthy warranties, cutting into business for both auto parts stores and mechanics, as customers at times bypass them both. Not to mention smart cars, also reducing the need for traditional auto parts.
If you don't have the volume of the cars breaking down as much, you really don't need that many places to sell you the parts. And there are probably a lot of places out there to sell them.
So with stores like Pep Boys right next door, should they be on notice? Business expert and attorney Parag Amin says now is the time to shift their focus.
If I'm one of these CEOs for one of these auto parts stores, I'm nervous. I realize that the internet is a very difficult thing to compete with in terms of price, in terms of convenience. So ultimately, what I'm looking at is how do I make my people better?
Kendall Green, Fox 5 News.
I'm not going to bash it totally that it's all about online sales, because online sales have been around for quite a while. It's just that the EV mandate came in and people are holding on to their old cars longer and they're going to where value is added. During the time when I served as a parts manager, I had to get up off my ass and go out and visit with the garages and shops in and around the area, the geographical area which the dealership I worked for. And the most important thing at that time was to build customer relationship. That went a far away. Right now in today's modern world, it's all about collaboration. That's a new terminology that has taken over for content creators like myself in order to propel our business forward. But it is still networking. It's just different terminology. So we have to always come up with innovative ways in order to move forward. And that is one of the reasons why I summarize everything into two particular terms: benchmarking, best practices. Everything is condensed into those two terms, which you can actually look into to find out exactly what's the best way forward. I don't need to go into details. As long as you know what those are, then it will open a whole different paradigm for you to grow your business. And that is how we learned it the old way. But this shift isn't entirely bad or good. It's just the market adopting. Remember when cars replaced horses? The founding father of Toyota traveled to America in the early 1900s, and he saw cars for the very first time in his life. The Ford Model A, I believe. And then he brought one back to Japan and Toyota was born. Industries grew around autos. Even blacksmiths had to pivot or shut down. Now EVs are creating a similar shift. However, it's not just the market forces at play. Policies like those from the Biden and the Trudeau administration here have accelerated this transition by incentivizing EV production at the expense of traditional industries. The ripple effects of these are massive layoffs and shutdowns, which are looming, basically what you're seeing now. Take a look at this next feature.
And union leaders are concerned about the future of the automaker. This comes as the company recently announced another 1,000 employees will be laid off at its Toledo plant. Gino Vici spoke to union members and automotive experts and brings us more on what they think is behind the struggles at the company.
Yes, union members and local union leadership here on Stellantis say they are beyond frustrated with the company's recent struggles and say they don't understand it. As you just mentioned, another 1,000 employees laid off in Toledo. We're now approaching 4,000 layoffs just this fall. They say they're simply not buying the claim that it's all due to poor market conditions. They believe this is a case of bad management.
It is management's mismanagement, and ultimately it falls on Carlos Tavares for these problems.
Luigi Joykai, Local 51 president and union member at Stellantis, says he believes the recent struggles at the company are not being caused by market conditions. However, last week, Stellantis did announce the layoffs are due to the poor market conditions.
It's a complete fallacy. How can you cite market conditions when Ford and GM just reported in their fourth quarter, I want to say double-digit year-over profits, so record profits again in the fourth quarter, and here you have Stellantis down, well over 20%. It's not the market, it's mismanagement.
Joy Kai says roughly 4,000 layoffs in Michigan.
I think it's a little bit of both, but you have to remember not just market forces at play. Policies like those from the Biden administration and here in Canada have accelerated this transition by incentivizing EV production at the expense of traditional industries. And the ripple effects of these changes are massive, with layoffs and shutdown looming. And he spoke about General Motors. And take a look right here. GM lays off about 1,000 workers, cutting costs to compete in a crowded auto. And this one he's talking about Jeep Dodge maker Stellantis reports a 48% drop in first net profit of weak US sales. In other news here, Nissan to axe 9,000 jobs, cut production on weak China US sales. Then we have VW here announcing that they are about to close 3 of their plants in Germany. And then not to mention the latest one now is Boeing issues layoff notices to 400 plus workers as it begins drastic cuts. But these cuts highlight a much broader issue. The automakers, they bet big on EVs because of the government mandates and incentives. And instead of letting the market decide, they funnel resources into EV development, often outsources production to other countries while benefiting from taxpayer-funded subsidiaries. Batteries are sourced from CATL in China, I believe. Minerals to create the said batteries are from other countries across the globe. Talk about Congo, Australia, Chile. And here's the problem. Betting everything on EVs was risky. So automakers like Stellantis used inflated truck prices to fund EV research and development. But by moving too fast, they neglected the market demand currently happening. Let's continue the video.
Indiana and Ohio are causing a rift among union members because he says the company is waiting to the last minute to notify the union of their plans, making it difficult to communicate what's happening.
And I believe the company is using this tactic to sow discord and dissent among the membership so that we take our eye off the ball and always remember that it is the company's fault.
This is definitely a management problem.
Automotive expert John McElroy says it's bad management and a whole lot more.
The company has got so many products that are so expensive in the market right now. It's been trying to adjust that, bring prices down, add more incentives, throttle back on production. Some of the early signs are a little bit encouraging, but it's got a long way to go.
Moving forward, Joy Kai says the union is leaving all options on the table to address what's happening at Stellantis.
We're doing everything we can, exploring every avenue through grievances. If we need to strike, that's an avenue as well.
In Detroit, Gino Vici, CBS News, Detroit.
But another thing I must add is that instead of allowing capitalism to guide the transition naturally, policies try to force a shift. Now, automakers like Stellantis you're seeing here face production challenges, high costs, and uncertain consumer interests. Trump hasn't even taken office yet, so all this is a manifestation of the seed that was already planted. Now, here in Canada, we were dependent on the legacy automakers to save us by opening EV plants here, but looking more like a pipe dream with current economic conditions looming over us, and you expect US companies to move jobs overseas, take taxpayer money, and expect a smooth sailing. That doesn't work like that. It is a management issue. I think what they should have done was have their EV manufacturing section separate and apart, and then try to make the switch totally. But what they did is that their trucks were selling like hotcakes, especially the Pavement Princess, the Jeep Wrangler, which was a top seller and was going good. But all that money into EV development came back into the prices, and they had to escalate the prices to make up back for the shortfall on a number of things were happening. Yes, bad management is also to blame with this, but as the saying goes, once anything goes south, the employees are going to be the first to go. And this approach isn't sustainable, and we're starting to see the consequences. Hence, so many layoffs are happening. The entire transition to EV is a reality, but the way it's being handled have left workers, industries, and communities in total disarray. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. How do you think these changes will shape the future of the automotive sector going forward? Remember to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide. Please smash that like button on your way out. It will only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.